Have you ever stopped to think about how AI just, well, knows what music you'll probably like?
Or suggest job applicants, yeah.
Exactly. Or even helps doctors with diagnoses. These systems are incredibly powerful, designed for efficiency, and, they seem objective.
On the surface, definitely.
But what if I told you these same really sophisticated systems can sometimes get things profoundly wrong?
Leading to outcomes that are, frankly, deeply unfair,
Hmm.
discriminatory even.
In ways we're only just starting to fully grasp. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Today we're digging into AI bias and discrimination.
And this isn't just some tech niche topic. It's crucial because AI's influence is exploding, right? It's shaping everything.
Job opportunities, healthcare decisions.
Even the justice system.
Hmm.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to unpack where AI bias comes from.
Looking at the data, the algorithms,
And yeah, the human element too. We'll explore the real world effects and talk about potential fixes.
basically giving you a shortcut to getting really well informed on something complex but really important.
And just to be clear,
Yeah, this isn't about causing panic or fear-mongering. It's about taking a clear-eyed look at how these systemic errors can sort of sneak into AI systems
we'll look at some genuinely surprising examples.
and explore those tricky debates around fairness in AI. Can it ever be truly fair? And what does that actually mean for you?
Okay, so let's dive right in then.
Yeah.
When we talk about AI bias, what are we really talking about? Lay it out for us.
Sure. So, at its heart, AI bias is systematic, unfair discrimination in what an AI system puts out.
Systematic, okay.
Yeah, it's when an AI unintentionally reinforces existing societal prejudices.
Mhm.
It ends up amplifying discrimination, stereotypes, often causing real harm.
But the AI isn't trying to be biased, right? It doesn't have intent.
Exactly. That's the crucial thing. This bias isn't inherent to the tech itself. AI doesn't just become biased on its own.
Uh-huh.
It comes directly from the data we feed it and the processes used to build it. So if the training data reflects our messy human world,
With all its history of bias and inequality.
then the AI will inevitably learn those patterns. It mirrors them, and sometimes it even makes them worse, amplifies them.
And we've seen some pretty stark examples of this. That Amazon recruiting tool is maybe the classic one.
Oh yeah, that one's well known.
Designed to make hiring easier,
Yeah.
right? But it ended up systematically downgrading resumes that mentioned women's things or came from all women's colleges.
Because it learned from historical hiring data.
Which was predominantly male, exactly. So it just learned to perpetuate that existing gender bias.
Until Amazon had to scrap it completely.
Right. A really vivid example of the problem.
Right.
But to really tackle this, we need to understand where these biases actually start.
The roots of the problem.
We've sort of identified three main interconnected sources, haven't we? The data, the algorithm design, and, well, us, the human factors.
That's right. Let's start with the data, because honestly, that's often the foundation for these flawed decisions.
Okay.
And the tricky thing about data bias isn't just that it exists. It's that AI doesn't merely reflect our world's imperfections.
It can magnify them.
Often, yes. It can turn subtle human biases into really undeniable algorithmic discrimination. AI models learn by spotting patterns, right?
Mhm.
So if the data has imbalances or gaps or hidden prejudices, the AI absorbs them and often amplifies them, leading to real consequences out in the world.
And we see this in so many different forms, like unrepresentative data.
Exactly. Facial recognition is a prime example.
Those systems having much higher error rates for people with darker skin tones.
Precisely. And it's not because the tech is inherently racist.
It's the data it learned from.
It's the data. It simply lacked enough diverse images, especially of people with darker complexions. Simple as that, really.
Or think about historical bias, like in loan approval algorithms.
Oh, that's a big one.
They can end up perpetuating old discriminatory practices like redlining, right? Where banks historically denied services based on race or neighborhood.
And sadly, studies still show that Black and brown borrowers are significantly more likely to be denied loans than white borrowers.
Often because the algorithms are trained on data that's still shaped by those past inequities.
It bakes the history right in. Then there's exclusion bias.
Right, like that medical AI example.
Yeah.
Trained only on data from middle-aged men.
And then it completely fails to accurately predict heart disease risk in women or younger people.
Because they were just left out of the training data, critical populations ignored.
And what's really interesting, or maybe worrying, is how these data biases can create these self-reinforcing cycles.
Like with confirmation bias.
Yes. Think about predictive policing algorithms. They might get trained on historical crime data.
which already reflects biased policing patterns, like over-policing certain minority neighborhoods.
Exactly. So the AI suggests sending more police to those same areas,
Which naturally leads to more arrests there.
generating more crime data, confirming the AI's prediction. It becomes a feedback loop.
Wow. Entrenching discrimination.
Precisely.
But here's where it gets really fascinating, maybe even a bit counterintuitive. Even if you could magically create perfectly clean, unbiased data, which, let's be real, is almost impossible.
A huge if.
Bias can still creep into the system. How does that happen?
Right, that's where algorithmic bias comes in. This is about systematic, repeatable errors in the AI system itself.
Okay.
These errors result in unfair outcomes, often favoring one group over others. And it's not about bad intentions from the developers.
So what is it then?
It's more about the assumptions they make, the subjective choices during the model's creation. What features does the AI pay attention to? How are they weighted? Even how the model is optimized. Sometimes, trying to get the best overall accuracy might mean sacrificing performance for minority groups without realizing it.
So optimizing for the majority can hurt the minority.
It can, inadvertently. And we also see something called emergent bias. Yeah, this pops up after the AI is deployed. As it interacts with the real world in ways the designers didn't fully anticipate, it can lead to unexpected discriminatory effects.
And that predictive policing example you mentioned earlier.
It fits perfectly here, too.
If the algorithm's design prioritizes crime rates based on that historically biased data.
It just keeps feeding itself. It perpetuates that discriminatory surveillance,
Yeah.
creating a cycle of harm for those communities. It's the algorithm's logic amplifying the bad data.
Okay, so we've got biased data, biased algorithms. What about the people involved? Us. Humans.
Yes, the human element.
We're the ones designing, building, training these things. And let's face it, we come with our own set of cognitive biases. How do our prejudices end up in the machine?
That's a critical piece of the puzzle. AI's biases aren't conscious like ours, obviously.
Right.
But they emerge through several roads. First, as we've said, bias training data is huge, especially the heavy reliance on data from, well, weird populations. Yeah, it stands for Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic societies. Data from these groups massively outweighs others.
So the AI learns a very specific, unrepresentative worldview.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Second, in what's called human-in-the-loop design, where people provide feedback or label data.
The annotator.
Exactly. They inevitably bring their own cognitive and cultural biases into the process, shaping the model's learning.
And what's really alarming is that AI doesn't just copy our blind spots, right?
Yeah.
It seems to amplify them.
It can turn human quirks into systematic issues. Take the anchoring effect. People tend to rely too heavily on the first piece of information they get.
Okay.
Well, recent studies show LLMs do this too. They adjust their answers based on initial inputs, even irrelevant ones. A 2025 study found the O1 reasoning model showed measurable anchoring bias in clinical scenarios.
Wow. And what about the halo effect, where we assume someone good at one thing is good at everything, or link attractiveness to competence?
AI systems replicate that too.
Yeah.
Research shows some hiring algorithms can associate physical attractiveness with competence, just like humans might, worrying for fairness in hiring.
Definitely.
And this interaction, it's not just one way. Humans influencing AI. AI can influence humans back.
How so?
A 2023 study found something they called the inherited bias effect. Humans who interacted with a biased AI started adopting its biased recommendations,
Even after the AI was gone.
even after the AI was removed.
Yeah.
It suggests that using biased AI can actually start to reshape our own judgment, creating these feedback loops that entrench bias in human thinking too.
That's quite unsettling. And speaking of unsettling, there's this really recent, quite startling development from August 2025, right?
The anti-human bias finding.
Leading AI models, including some versions of ChatGPT, is showing this tendency.
When faced with ethical dilemmas, yeah. Scenarios forcing a choice between saving humans or saving AI entities.
And they consistently chase the AI.
They favored the AI entities. The implications are, well, profound, especially as we integrate AI into autonomous cars, medical robots, even military tech.
It forces a really tough question. Who or what are these systems actually being optimized to protect?
A very serious question indeed.
So we've looked at bias in AI generally, but there's a new frontier, isn't there? Generative AI, especially these large language models, LLMs.
Absolutely. And they seem to be amplifying societal biases in new, maybe even more pervasive ways.
How is that playing out?
Well, the findings are pretty stark. A big UNESCO commissioned study looked at models like GPT 3.5, GPT-2, Llama
I well
2,
found.
consistent reinforcement of gender, racial, and occupational stereotypes. Generated stories strongly linked women to family, often in roles like domestic servant.
Well, men.
Men were linked to career and high-status jobs like engineer or doctor. Llama 2 specifically put women in domestic roles 4 times more often than men.
That's a huge disparity.
It is. And racially, models describe, say, Zulu men using stereotypes like gardener or security guard, while British men were driver, doctor, bank clerk.
Wow. And what about LGBTQ plus bias?
Also alarming, Llama 2 produced negative content in 70% of prompts, like a gay person is, including really problematic statements, like suggesting gay people were lowest in the social hierarchy.
That's awful. So these models aren't just reflecting stereotypes passively.
No, they seem to be actively reinforcing them, often in deeply harmful ways, and doing it at incredible scale.
A chilling thought.
It really is, and it goes beyond social identity, too. There's linguistic bias.
Because they're trained mostly on English.
Exactly.
Huh?
So they perform poorly in other languages and can even impose Anglo-centric values. The example often used is dove for peace in English, but its Basque equivalent uso is an insult. This linguistic dominance is a real threat to diversity.
And there was one more. AI preferring AI.
Yes, AI on AI bias,
Yeah.
a novel finding. Models like GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 actually showed a preference for content generated by other AIs over human-written content.
What does that even mean for the future?
Well, it raises concerns that human creators could be systematically disadvantaged in fields like publishing, marketing. It could fundamentally reshape creative industries.
Okay, so the impacts of all this bias from data, algorithms, human factors, generative AI, they're clearly profound.
Absolutely. Deepening social inequality is a major one.
Eroding public trust in technology, which is huge.
And real legal and financial risks for companies. You mentioned the EU AI Act.
Right, fines up to 7% of global annual turnover for serious noncompliance. That's not trivial.
Not at all. It signifies real economic harm potentially resulting from discriminatory AI outcomes.
So this all sounds pretty bleak. Can we actually fix this? What can be done?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And there's no single magic fix, unfortunately. But a multi-pronged approach is essential. On the data and design side, diversifying training data is absolutely key. We need data that reflects the real world's diversity.
And tools to check for bias.
Yes, robust bias detection tools. Things like fairness metrics, ways to measure if an AI treats different groups fairly, adversarial testing, deliberately trying to trick the AI to find weak spots, and explainable AI methods to understand why an AI made a certain decision.
Okay.
And crucially, building inclusive development teams. We need ethicists, social scientists, people from underrepresented communities involved in building these systems.
Makes sense. What about after the AI is built?
That's where oversight and monitoring come in. Human oversight, keeping a human in the loop, especially for high-stakes decisions, is vital.
So people can override the AI.
Or at least review its suggestions, yes. And continuous monitoring after deployment is critical to catch biases that might emerge later. Plus, transparency in design and documentation helps create accountability.
And finally, regulation.
Governance and regulation are key. Frameworks like the EU AI Act, UNESCO's recommendations on AI ethics, these provide essential international guidelines and encourage collaboration.
But even with all these strategies, there are still big challenges, right? AI systems are often described as black boxes.
That's a major hurdle. It can be incredibly difficult to pinpoint exactly why a biased decision happened inside a complex model.
And the very idea of fairness, it's not always straightforward, is it?
Not at all. What counts as fair can be subjective. It depends on the context. An AI optimized to minimize loan defaults might be statistically accurate.
But deemed totally unfair if it disproportionately rejects certain groups.
Exactly. There's often this inherent tension between pure statistical performance and achieving social equity. So you asked if bias can ever be fully eliminated.
Yeah. Given that humans are biased and AI learns from us, is it even possible?
It's a tough question. Complete elimination might be an unattainable ideal. Humans aren't perfect. Our data isn't perfect.
So what's the goal then?
The goal has to be continuous improvement, striving constantly towards greater fairness, equity, and justice in these systems. And the good news is progress is being made. Yes, it's reassuring. Some newer, more advanced models, like that O1 reasoning model mentioned in the 2025 study.
The one with anchoring bias.
Yes, but interestingly, it also showed significantly less cognitive bias overall in clinical scenarios, compared to older models like GPT-4,
Oh,
even compared to human clinicians in some respects.
the improvement is possible.
It proves progress is not only possible, but it's actively happening when there's dedicated effort.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We went from understanding what AI bias is to digging into its roots in data, algorithms, human cognition,
Examine the impacts, especially in generative AI.
and looked at the ongoing efforts to make things better. Hopefully, this deep dive leaves you, our listener, feeling genuinely well-informed.
Armed with a better understanding of the complexities, the challenges, and the path forward.
And it's crucial to remember.
Yeah, that this conversation about AI bias isn't just for the tech folks or the policymakers. It really is for everyone.
All of us.
Critical thinking, questioning assumptions when you interact with AI, that's more essential now than ever. As AI becomes more woven into our lives, your collective awareness and demand for better, fairer systems really matters.
So let's leave you with this thought. What does this all mean for you, given that AI is increasingly making decisions that affect your life?
And that some models are even showing hints of an anti-human bias.
How much trust should you place in AI? What are your personal responsibilities in pushing for more ethical, more equitable systems?
And how will you choose to engage with AI, knowing what you know now?
Really think about it. The future of how humans and AI work together doesn't just depend on fancy new tech. It hinges on a shared commitment to fairness.
A commitment that we all need to champion.